I refuse to believe that this life is meant to be like anything other than love. I just know it has to be love. And I'll be damned if I'm not going to love in this life. So I just was super dedicated to finding like that love in myself. Obviously Bikram yoga, meditation. I'm not really great at meditation. For me, like working out is a form of meditation, but like really listening, naming the voices, understanding who's been like on a rampage of like the put downs that allow someone else to be able to put you down that way. And what I've allowed, no longer allowing anything but the best for myself. And from that space, Jess came into my life. So I like to believe that once you reckon with yourself internally, like the things that are meant to align do and will open up to you. But this life just has to be about love. Like I wasn't going to be one of those jaded forever people. Like you never know when it's going to happen again, but you know, it has to happen again. I mean, when I left Nashville, I went and got my digital audience marketing degree at Arizona State. I got a 4.29 GPA.
What's up?
Hey, while I was introducing myself to marketing, and I was being promoted to marketing director before I even graduated. I'm a financial planner with Northwestern Mutual. I've studied a ton to do those financial exams. I have an Airbnb. All of these things I'm referring to are like, you can set up you can plug all the holes in your boat financially. You can set yourself up in this business mindset and have these multiple streams of income. But if you don't have yourself in a similar mindset in your relationships where you recognize I am an empire and I can have like these multiple streams of joy, then you're doing yourself such a disservice.
I love that. And I've never heard it that way. And I'm forever changed because of the way that you said that. The multiple streams of joy in your life and the multiple streams of income.
Yeah. And it can be all of them.
All of them.
Man, when you just pigeon yourself to like, oh, I'm just supposed to be this musician and I'm just supposed to do this because this is what I'm good at. You forget like all these other things. And obviously I have a brain. I grew up believing that I just had to be this beauty. But like, as I've kicked that door open for myself and I've realized I can do literally everything I want. Like I can study this, I can understand this, I can pull in all of these things and I can create a foundation that can't be kicked out from underneath me if some dude decides to be a totally different human than I think they are. So like setting up that internal foundation and financially, spiritually, emotionally, knowing what your boundaries are, knowing like you are like a freaking temple and having that respect for your own skin and your own body before like allowing someone else to work with that energy. Man, you don't know what you don't know. But my 20s were a shit show in comparison to how I feel. I wish I had this understanding then, walking through some of these fields, because I felt like an observer. Like I would watch these men who I knew probably wanted to sleep with me and didn't want to have anything to do with my talent in like any productive way for real. But you don't know that. You think like all these opportunities, you have to invest in them and care about them. And you're trying in all these ways. So I had this like internal thing going on where I was trying to understand, but eventually if you don't keep this internal strong, you like go out into this world out here, and then it's all about what they think of you, and you're like looking at yourself from the outside looking in, and it's no longer about what's in there. I'm just so grateful that although I'm like a totally different person than I thought I was gonna be, from this like entertainer, I could still do that. I'm just not who I thought. When I was 12, my uncle handed me Taylor Swift's CD and he was like, you look just like her. She's already doing it. So of course I've spent my whole life comparing myself to Taylor Swift, which is no one should ever do that. No one should ever do that.
Your whole life. No.
But like, I really thought like I was supposed to be that kind of a person.
Mm-hmm.
And it just took away from how much I really enjoy like being a homebody and like just having a healthy family and like a simple meal and a glass of wine, like with a sunset, like super, super basic things. Society makes you think you need to be all of these other things in order to be worth something, but finding that worth internally and then like playing with life, playing with the different like fields that you can create wealth in, and enjoying the creativity of that process, from like a mindset of this is the temple, this is the business, this is the entrepreneurial ability to really never settle for anything that will never fully define you. So if your work is like one thing, like, and you feel like you're not being fulfilled by it, that technically your work shouldn't be who you are. That connection was really difficult for me because, you know, music, it's so much about who you are. But separating myself from like what I do doesn't have to be who I am. This is the sandbox I'm playing in at this time. I did something really interesting in therapy because when I reported him, the state was very generous in giving me therapy, which has been really effective. We did this sandbox moment where she had me pick these characters and put them all in the sandbox and explain who these characters are. And there was like the butterfly who was like the creative. There was like the tiger who was like the protector. There was this one guy who was just angry. And there was this girl who had her like hands over her ears. And the guy who was angry was kind of like angry for that girl who had her hands over her ears. But I kind of explained to her, I kind of don't want this guy here. And she said to me, well, what does that guy do for you? And ultimately, if you stop caring about the part of yourself that is straight up not down with what you've been doing, if you don't listen to that part of yourself, it's trying to tell you something too. Even if you don't like that it's asking you to change, it's asking you to grow, it's asking you to freaking leave. And you are just so committed to the vision outside of what that guy has to say. Man, you need that part. And that's it's important to be able to give that part love and comfort and understanding, because each one of them, they don't speak up unless they feel like they need to. So instead of exiling things that feel like they are begging for your attention or feel like they're not your favorite part of your personality, like learning how to work with them so that they're not as frustrated. It's still you. It's not like something that you need to hide, the shadow self, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. And the characters that were in the sandbox, those were the different parts of you. Is that what you were working through?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool to be able to have characters that, embody those voices that we hear, whether they're telling us to go for something, whether they're telling us to get the fuck out and leave, whether they're telling us to play and create and enjoy that glass of wine by the sunset, and it's all good. I love the way that you described that, because I think sometimes we try to shut those parts of us off. Like, no, that's just like a lingering thought that just if I push it far away and put it away, it'll just like shut up at some point. But the truth is it doesn't. It starts with a whisper, and then it'll just start banging down the door until you choose to listen.
Yeah. So anything now that starts to come up that like gets my anxiety moving, I'm like, okay, what are we feeling? And
who's talking?
Right? And being back in your body, because abuse, trauma, like my heart goes out to anyone going through that. I've been learning through one of the books that we're reading in our book club, when your first chakra is violated with abuse, all of your energy goes into your upper chakras. And so you start to like think, and that was very much that girl who was watching everyone and analyzing whether or not I needed to do something particular in the music business, like that internal voice, it all became into my head because ultimately you're trying to protect yourself, but you've lost connection to the earth. You've lost connection to the grounding within yourself. And you're trying to think ahead of the problem before it happens instead of the presence of the moment that you can shift through in a way that probably will be a little bit better. It's a huge lesson. Huge lesson.